At my daughter's sleepover, she came home with an expensive camera. When I asked where it came from, she froze and said, "Greg told me you and Daddy needed money, and this would help." I grabbed the camera and felt my blood turn cold as I realized what this might mean. My name is Lisa Parker, and as a senior child protection investigator for the state, I'd handled dozens of cases involving predators who groomed children through expensive gifts and manipulation. But nothing had prepared me for finding my own 8-year-old daughter, Maggie, caught in what appeared to be the early stages of exploitation. Greg Mason had been the fun dad in our neighborhood social circle for 3 years. While other parents struggled with bedtime routines and homework battles, Greg built blanket forts until midnight and made pancakes shaped like the kids' initials. His daughter Stacy was Maggie's best friend, and our families had grown close through countless playdates, barbecues, and holiday gatherings. Greg's wife Jennifer worked long hours as a nurse, leaving Greg to handle most of the parenting duties. As I held that camera, my professional training kicked in immediately. This was a Canon power shot worth at least $400, not something a parent would casually give to a child for a project. The grooming pattern was textbook: expensive gifts, creating a sense of financial obligation, establishing secrets between adult and child. My hands shook as I powered on the device and began scrolling through the images. What I found made my stomach drop. Dozens of photos of Maggie's feet in different poses, some with painted toenails, others showing her ankles from various angles. They were professional quality images that looked disturbingly similar to the fetish photography I'd encountered in previous investigations. Each photo was time-stamped over the past 6 weeks, coinciding exactly with her recent sleepovers at the Mason house. "Maggie," I said, keeping my voice as calm as possible while my mind raced through investigation protocols. "Can you tell me more about when Greg asked you to take these pictures?" My daughter's entire demeanor changed. The confident, talkative girl who moments earlier had been showing me her latest art project suddenly became withdrawn and anxious. She picked at her fingernails and wouldn't make eye contact. "He said you and Daddy were worried about money because of my school and dance classes," she whispered. "He said grown-ups sometimes need help, and that taking pictures was a way for kids to help their families. He gave me money each time, $20, and said I should save it for something special, but not tell you where it came from because it should be a surprise." I felt physically ill as the full scope of the manipulation became clear. Greg had identified our family's financial stress about Maggie's activities and used it as leverage. My husband and I both worked full-time, but child protection doesn't pay particularly well, and we'd been discussing cutting back on some of Maggie's extracurriculars to manage our budget. Somehow Greg had learned about our concerns and weaponized them. "Honey, where's that money now?" I asked, though I was dreading the answer. Maggie led me to her bedroom and showed me a small wooden box on her dresser that contained 6 $20 bills. $120 total. As a child protection investigator making $52,000 annually, I knew exactly what this represented in legal terms: payment for child exploitation material. The systematic nature of it, the regular payment schedule, the professional quality of the photos, all indicated a predator who had done this before. My professional network included some of the best prosecutors, forensic specialists, and law enforcement officers in the state. More importantly, I understood exactly how these cases needed to be built to ensure conviction. Greg had made a catastrophic error in targeting the daughter of someone who specialized in catching people exactly like him. I immediately called my husband Mark to come home from work, then contacted Detective Rachel Torres from the Special Victims Unit. Rachel and I had worked together on multiple cases over the past 5 years, and I trusted her expertise completely. While waiting for them to arrive, I carefully photographed the camera, the money, and documented everything according to the same evidence protocols I used in my professional investigations. "Lisa," Rachel said when she arrived 30 minutes later, "I need you to step back from this emotionally and let us handle the investigation. I know that's impossible as a mother, but your professional experience makes you the most valuable witness we could have. You know exactly what evidence we need and how these predators operate." She was right. My years of investigating child exploitation cases had given me insights that most parents wouldn't have. I knew Greg would likely have additional victims. I understood the grooming timeline and could identify all the manipulation tactics he'd used. Most crucially, I knew how to build a case that would result in federal charges rather than just local misdemeanors. Over the next week, I worked closely with Rachel and federal prosecutor James Mitchell to develop our strategy. James had handled over 200 child exploitation cases and explained that my professional background would be invaluable in court. "Most parents don't understand the systematic nature of grooming," he said, "but you can articulate exactly how Greg's behavior fits established predator patterns. That's going to be crucial for the jury." My first strategic decision was to continue appearing normal while we built our case. Greg needed to believe his manipulation was still working while we gathered evidence. I maintained friendly conversations with Jennifer, expressed gratitude for Greg's helpfulness with Maggie, and even scheduled another playdate. But this time, I wired Maggie with a small recording device that my forensics team had provided. The recording from that playdate provided exactly the evidence we needed. Greg could be heard clearly instructing Maggie on poses, talking about keeping their special photo project secret and promising additional payment. Even more damaging, he mentioned having similar arrangements with other special girls whose families needed extra money. Rachel immediately expanded the investigation to identify these other victims. Within 2 weeks, we had 3 additional families who reported similar suspicious behavior: expensive gifts, secretive photography sessions, and unexplained money in their daughter's possession. Each family had been experiencing financial stress that Greg had somehow learned about and exploited. My professional expertise proved invaluable in coordinating between families. I helped the other parents understand the legal process, connected them with appropriate victim services, and explained how federal charges would provide much stronger protection than state-level prosecution. Having investigated these cases for 8 years, I knew exactly what resources were available and how to access them. The forensic analysis of Greg's electronic devices revealed the true scope of his operation. Over 2,000 images of at least 12 different children, organized into folders by child's name and stored across multiple cloud storage accounts. He had been selling access to these photos through encrypted platforms and had generated approximately $30,000 in revenue over 2 years. James filed federal charges under multiple statutes: production of child exploitation material, distribution across state lines, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. The federal charges carried a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years and maximum of 40 years in prison. Most importantly, there would be no possibility of plea bargaining down to lesser charges. During the investigation, I discovered that Greg had specifically targeted families connected to my work. 3 of the victims' parents had consulted with me professionally about unrelated child protection matters. Greg had been systematically gathering information about vulnerable families through his connection to me, then using that intelligence to identify and exploit children whose parents were dealing with financial stress. This revelation transformed my approach from protecting Maggie to dismantling an entire predatory network. Working with federal investigators, we traced Greg's online activities and identified buyers of the images across 6 different states. The investigation expanded to include charges of conspiracy, money laundering, and racketeering. My expertise in child protection protocols ensured that all evidence collection followed perfect legal procedures. Every interview with child victims was conducted according to federal guidelines. All electronic evidence was properly authenticated and documented. The defense would have no procedural grounds to challenge our case. The confrontation came when federal agents executed search warrants simultaneously at Greg's home, workplace, and storage unit. I observed from the FBI command vehicle as Greg was arrested in his driveway while returning from work. His expression of shock and confusion quickly changed to fear when agents began removing computers, cameras, and boxes of printed photographs from his house. Jennifer's reaction provided additional validation of our case. When she learned the details of Greg's activities, she immediately filed for divorce and cooperated fully with the investigation. She revealed that Greg had been increasingly secretive about his photography hobby and had recently purchased expensive camera equipment she couldn't understand how they afforded. The trial took place 14 months later, and my professional background proved decisive. I testified not just as Maggie's mother, but as an expert witness on grooming patterns and child exploitation methods. The jury heard detailed explanations of how predators identify vulnerable families, establish trust relationships, and gradually escalate their abuse. James's prosecution was methodical and devastating. Financial records showed Greg's systematic targeting of families experiencing economic stress. Digital forensics revealed his online sales network and customer base. Testimony from multiple child victims established a clear pattern of manipulation and exploitation. Greg was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. The judge specifically cited the systematic nature of his crimes and his abuse of community trust relationships. Additionally, all his assets were seized to provide restitution for victim therapy and support services. But the most satisfying aspect of our victory was the broader impact. Our investigation led to arrests of 17 buyers across multiple states. The federal task force used our case as a model for identifying and prosecuting similar networks. My department received additional funding to expand our investigation capabilities. Maggie's recovery was supported by specialized therapy services that my professional connections helped arrange. Working with the best child trauma specialists in our region, we developed a treatment plan that addressed her specific experiences while helping her understand that she had been victimized by someone who manipulated her desire to help her family. 6 months after Greg's sentencing, I received a promotion to Regional Director of Child Protection Services, with a salary increase to $78,000 annually. My successful handling of this case, combined with my ability to maintain professional standards while protecting my own family, demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership our department needed. The other victim families have remained close friends. We formed a support network that helps parents recognize grooming behaviors and provides resources for protecting children from predatory manipulation. Several parents have become advocates for stronger federal prosecution of child exploitation cases. Jennifer and Stacy moved to a different state to start over, but Stacy and Maggie maintain their friendship through supervised video calls and occasional visits. The girls' relationship is slowly healing, though it will never be quite the same as before Greg's betrayal of their trust. Today, Maggie is thriving in school and has developed a strong interest in helping other children who have experienced trauma. She participates in our department's peer support programs and has expressed interest in eventually becoming a child advocate herself. Her experience, while traumatic, has given her unique insights into how predators operate and how survivors can heal. Greg's case became a textbook example, used in law enforcement training programs across the country. My testimony and case documentation are now part of the FBI's training materials for child exploitation investigations. The systematic approach we used to build evidence and coordinate between agencies has been replicated in dozens of similar cases. Most importantly, our success sent a clear message to other predators in our community. Attempting to exploit children when their parent is a professional child protection investigator with federal law enforcement connections is not just morally reprehensible, it's strategically catastrophic. Greg learned too late that some parents are uniquely equipped to ensure that predators face the full consequences of their crimes. The $120 Greg paid Maggie has been placed in a college fund that now totals over $15,000 thanks to victim restitution payments and my salary increase. Every dollar he used to manipulate my daughter is now invested in her future success. Sometimes the best revenge is transforming a predator's weapon into a tool for their victim's triumph.